Welcome one and all to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Chandler. My name is Mary Kate Eccles. My pronouns are she, her, and I will be your worship associate in sanctuary today as well as online. So let's give a wave to our faraway friends there at the camera. Hello. Good morning. We welcome all to our faith. All races, sexualities, gender identities, abilities, and oddly enough for religion, beliefs. During service today, if you or a little one needs to take a break, feel free to use the flex room right over here. The sound will be powered through so you won't miss a thing. If you have a burden waiting on your heart, please feel free to use our pastoral care team. In sanctuary today is going to be Carl Anderson, who is right there. And online is going to be Janet Cantley. So Carl will be waiting up here in the front, and then Janet Cantley, she put a message in the chat, and she will get back to you. All right. Our Caring Neighbors team is here to help us for all throughout the week outside of service, so feel free to call on them for any needs you may have. Now we would like to greet any newcomers here with us today. So if you feel like it, please stand. Please stay after service for snacks and drinks and conversation, and or go to the welcome circle there in the back to ask any questions you may have. Now, we're going to light our chalice. Welcome back. Thank you. All right. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love, which calls us to work for justice. So for our invitation for worship, we'll be doing a Jack Gilbert poem, and I think for context in this poem, it was written towards the end of his life. I imagine the gods saying, "We will make it up to you. We will give you 3 wishes," they say. "Let me see squirrels again," I tell them. "Let me eat some great hog stuffed and roasted on a giant spit and put out steaming into the winter of the neighborhood when I was usually too broke to afford even 100 grams I ate so happily, walking up the cobbles, past the street of the moon and the street of the birdcage makers, the street of silence and the street of little pissing. We can give you wisdom," they say in their rich voices. "Let me go at last to Huguette," I say, the Algerian student with her huge eyes, who timidly invited me to her room when I was too young and bewildered that first year in Paris. "Let me at least fail at my life. Think," they say, "we could make you famous again. Let me fall in love one last time." I beg them. Teach me mortality. Frighten me into the present. Help me find the heft of these days, that the nights will be full enough and my heart feral.
Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn. We have hymn books, by the way, over in that entry area on your, it's behind you. Not sure to say right or left. And you can always grab one of those on your way in or in the middle of a service, I guess. So this is number 151, I Wish I Knew How.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish I could say all the
Good morning. It's good to see all of your faces again. Good to be back up here. I'm Reverend Sarah Oglesby Dunnigan, the settled minister here. It's my great pleasure to be with you on this not very cool July morning. Today we're going to be talking about prayer and engaging in VUU forms of prayer. And this is a time in our service where we invite you to some centering. I'll have you know that the kids are all playing in water today. So they've got a slide and all kinds of stuff going on, and no one would blame you if you wanted to sneak over there and also get wet, or if you want to stop by after service. Next week, we'll be celebrating with a blessing of water bottles in the beginning of the school year, and I hope that you all will come for that. It's also our last weekend with our current Faith Formation Director, Kelsey, and we'll be wishing her well in her next adventure. And so I hope all of you will be here to join in all of that good fun. Lots of things are happening in the world right now, right? Let's take a moment to notice just what's in our own bodies, to find your own breath, to notice what you're worrying about in the back of your head. Maybe you have a list of things that you're going over just sort of unconsciously, things you're going to do, things you're worried about how they'll turn out, people or places that have a concern that you're carrying, maybe an act of grief or a celebration, whether it's deeply personal, you and your smaller network or influence, or something that was on the radio today, something happening to a neighbor or in the greater world around us. Maybe it's elections and how are things going to look in a year or 5 weeks or tomorrow. Just hold that. Breathe in and let yourself be in this space with these folks at this time. And in a little bit, I'll invite you, if you want, to mark what's in your heart with a lighting of a candle. Or perhaps you might want to leave us a note so that someone on the pastoral care team will know what was on your heart. Maybe you like to touch the elements, and in our fountain you might want to add some water or touch some water or leave a stone, or touch some sand and hold a stone. You can carry it back to your seat if you want. Sometimes holding something is a way to physically hold the thing that's in your heart. Or maybe you just like to sit in your seat and breathe in and breathe out, look around, smile at the people next to you, close your eyes. Whatever your body and spirit needs this morning, my invitation is for you to notice that and just respond to it. Our choir is going to sing a song to us in a moment. But before that, I'm going to share this poem by Joy Harjo called Eagle Poem. To pray, you open your whole self to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you. And know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know, except in moments steadily growing, and in languages that aren't always sound, but other circles of motion. Like eagle on Sunday morning over Salt River. Circles and blue sky and wind swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born, and die soon within a true circle of motion, like eagle rounding out the morning inside us. We pray that it will be done in beauty. In beauty. These are the words that you will be hearing in song. I think they echo a little bit what Joy has shared with us. Listen to the wind. The wind speaks wisdom. Listen to the sky singing joy. Listen to your heart. Her rhythms teach you love. Listen, learn, and live. Listen to the sea crashing with courage. Listen to the rain, for her song brings growth. Listen to the snow. Snow will teach you peace. Listen, learn, and live. Hear the wind blow. Listen, learn, and live. Listen to the trees. They speak in mystery. Listen to the storm as the thunder rolls. Listen to the dawn. The dawn will whisper love and hope. Listen, learn, and live. Prayer takes a lot of different forms, and I'm going to invite you, if you're willing and able, to join me in a body prayer. You can do it in your seat, or if you want to stand up and join me standing. We'll do it a couple times through. I'm going to give you what the motions might mean for me, but they might mean something different for you. And I want you to remember to only do what your body feels comfortable doing. So if I'm doing a movement that you don't want to do, don't do it. Do something else. The invitation is for you just to notice your body in space and to notice that sometimes body movements connect us to spirit in a way that other things don't. It's different. So we bring with our arms stretched high. Perhaps we're pulling in energy, connecting with light or love, God as you might name, spirit. Just take it in. And then when you're ready, reach in front of your hands and cup them as if you've received something from up there. Maybe take a moment to notice what it feels like, to imagine what it is that you've received, to feel gratitude for it. And when you're ready, give it to yourself. Just pull it into your heart, into your body. Notice your body. And when you're done receiving, you might be ready to share. And if you are, bring your arms out and sway. And perhaps it's like seeds you're throwing out, things that you're scattering and sharing. Whatever it is that you've received, it's not just yours. And we'll do it one more time without me saying anything, and you can insert whatever it means for you as we do those movements. Blessed be.
So I've thought a lot about the question of prayer in Unitarian Universalism. I was a big fan of the cure-all, go-to prayer, my former faith. It was taught to me by my mother out of love and made me feel in control of my life, even when I wasn't. I cannot be sincere in its usage anymore, so I've been thinking about something Reverend Fred, our former interim minister, introduced us to, that all prayers are basically help, thanks, and wow. The idea comes from the Anne Lamott book of the same name. This concept has been swirling around in my head, along with Unitarian Universalist covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth, our sacrament. And service is our prayer. And so it goes on. To me, service means an action of good intent. So I started thinking of times I took action in the form of help, thanks, and wow. And it came to me more naturally than I thought it would. I've complained at this pulpit, semi-jokingly, about the exasperation I felt having to do the hard work of service to pray. But in the week of Thanksgiving of last year, I did all 3 essential prayers as easy as breathing. First was thanks, fitting for Thanksgiving. Our Thanksgiving was going to be unusually small that year, just my parents and me. So we went up to Sedona, and I brought postcards and cute glitter pens and some stamps with me. I wanted to make the holiday more of an occasion, so I introduced a new tradition. I was going to write thank you notes to everyone who had meant something important to me over the course of the year. My mom loved it. Her and I did about 6 or 7 each, and convinced my dad to do one as well. They felt good to write, and like a complete circle, as every single friend I sent a thank you note that year messaged me saying they had put their note on their refrigerator. The people who make a difference in our life should know about it. My next prayer that long weekend was in service to myself. I need to remember to take care of myself sometimes, and by sometimes I mean all the time. We got a VRBO in Sedona on a golf course, and we stayed pretty close to the house. So I decided to take myself on some good walks in the morning. Being outside is so important for my well-being, and I miss it so much during the summers. There we are surrounded by these giant eucalyptus trees, these old pines, and the bright yellow cottonwoods because of the autumn, with these nice little walkways between the man-made ponds, and of course the big red rocks in the distance. And walking on my own, I got to commune and breathe deeply and take my time and go, wow. Help was my next prayer. Anyone who knows me knows my family has been fighting cancer on and off for about the last 15 years. My dad, in particular, has been in constant treatment for the last 3 years. This experimental treatment for sure saved his life, but the side effects have been brutal. They often come in the form of infections that have us in and out of the hospital. I don't remember exactly what happened or changed or we did differently Thanksgiving of last year, but an infection popped up in a different way. The symptom was mostly really scary amounts of fatigue. That got worse over the course of the long weekend. So much so that my mom and I were looking up hospitals in Sedona and wondering if we should make the drive back to Phoenix or not. We did, and while we're still in the weeds of cancer, I'll assure everyone that we're doing better than we were then. When my dad is not feeling well, or if the ground in a parking lot or an area isn't very even, I'll stand next to him as he gets out of the car and walk with him next to him through a parking lot or the uneven ground, jokingly but seriously calling myself a balance buddy. That particular drive home, he usually scoffs me off when I do that, but for that particular drive home, we held hands, walking through the parking lot, walking through the rest stops. And if you could hear my soul speaking, you would hear, please be okay. Please be okay. I couldn't say who or what I was praying to, but as anyone with a serious family illness knows, you don't care where the help comes from. These prayers were not very structured, nor were they intentionally prayers at the time, but they fed my soul and comforted me when I needed it, as any good prayer should. Upon reflection, they seem to be just part of living as well as you can. So perhaps you could say that Unitarian Universalists are praying all the time.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river
Years ago, practically in another corner of the multiverse, when I was barely an adult and visiting the family of my then boyfriend, I was asked to offer grace before a meal. We were at a restaurant in Southern California, and my future father-in-law, who was a Methodist minister, made the ask. I was terrified. I grew up unchurched. I had no context for prayer. I had no idea if I believed in God or who I would be praying to or what I would be praying for. I definitely had never prayed in a public space before. It felt extremely awkward and intimate, almost as if I had been asked to undress or dance at the tabletop. I felt spiritually unprepared for this request. Now, if memory serves, and I have tried to forget, there were a few painful moments in which I panicked. I strung words together in ways that truly defied my upbringing as a loquacious person with two parents that actually taught English. I made theologically bizarre statements, and I was generally unintelligible. My boyfriend started tapping my foot under the table to stop me, and his dad looked slightly amazed at the outcome of his request, wide-eyed and perhaps even anxious to end the moment with minimal calamity to his relationship with God and eavesdroppers alike. He never asked me to offer a prayer again in any context. And while he died many years ago, I like to think he occasionally checks on me and shakes his head in wonder that I am, in fact, a minister. And I am asked to offer prayers all the time. Maybe he's leaning over to the one he calls God and laughing a little at the inexplicable. Now, I became a Unitarian Universalist not long after that, but it was many years before I knew I would be a minister. I learned a little bit about prayer along the way. About 20 years ago, I learned from a women's group that I worked with. They explored the feminine divine and embedded prayer into rituals and shared stories and wove them in ways that taught me how to approach my life and the events and people in my life with a sense of awe, like the wow, and spiritual imagination. 20 years later-ish, when I finally entered seminary, I was unsure how to connect what I had learned in my VUU congregation to what others would identify as prayer in an ecumenical setting. And it wasn't until I was serving as a chaplain in a hospital as part of my training for VUU ministerial fellowship that I was regularly asked to pray for and with others. In fact, every morning at the hospital I served in, one of the chaplains was asked to offer a morning prayer over the loudspeaker of the hospital. We would pick up the receiver and send our voices tunneling through the hallways and rooms, echoing off hard floors and blending with noisy machines and the footsteps of doctors and nurses, social workers and family members, and swirling in the spaces where patients were praying for patience and healing and answers. That first day, I was again panicked. Such a large audience, so many different needs, so many different ideas about the holy. But my supervisor smiled and reminded me that each of us could offer different kinds of prayers, different ways to comfort and hold this diversity. That's why there was a team of chaplains and not just me. And over time, I learned to enter a room and ask folks how they named the holy and how the holy named them. To invite people to simply speak their needs and their worries in the room, to tell me what would be comforting. Sometimes it was a Bible passage. Sometimes it was a poem or a song. Sometimes it was just sitting in silence together. Sometimes the language was specific and memorized, words they had learned as a child and needed in that moment. But most often, prayer was an orientation to each other, a moment in which we made room for something invisible and yet somehow beautiful to emerge. Last week, on my last Sunday before rejoining you, I went to my friend Pastor Deonte's church in Central Phoenix, and he described the process of learning to pray as beginning with listening. I agree. Prayer manifests from presence, from listening, from spiritual practices, and simply making room for the holy. So people have asked me if UUs pray. And the answer is absolutely yes. But it's complicated, right? We don't have a set of words you need to memorize. We don't have a single text or set of scriptures that we will point to and say, it's all right there, that's all you need. And as a UU, you don't have to believe in a certain thing or pray to a particular entity. You can, but you don't have to. Prayer only requires a certain kind of humility and presence, the ability to be more open than what you can see or know, and an infinity of possibilities in the face of your own finitude. We can pray alone, or we can pray together. Now, one of my favorite professors, Reverend Jane Vennard, talked about the idea of a praying congregation. And she believed in the power of a community weaving its prayers together. She said that to become a praying congregation, everyone must be free to share their deepest hopes and fears and to reveal what is most important to them. I think I understand why I felt so vulnerable that first time someone asked me to pray in public. Because it is asking ourselves to be vulnerable with and for each other. How many of you grew up in a tradition other than Unitarianism and learned the prayers of that tradition? So many of you. Maybe you grew up in a family that prayed over dinner or before bed or perhaps only at church or in a specific group setting. Maybe you followed the example of other people or went to some kind of Sunday school or training, using words that you didn't choose and perhaps you weren't even asked to examine or think about. Who or what was God to you then? Was God a powerful someone that was going to fix things and make things right, like Mary Kate grew up with? Did you lose faith in that kind of God when life proved more complicated, when disappointment and hardship loomed large and prayer didn't seem to really change reality? Reverend Vennard says that praying congregations offer their members the freedom to explore prayer in whatever way feels right to them and then provides them a safe place to share their explorations. Many people tell me they've never experienced this kind of openness to prayer. Is that true for you? It's my deepest prayer that you will experience this kind of openness and freedom here, whether you're lighting a candle, holding a stone, touching water, singing, holding someone's hand, walking the labyrinth when it's not so hot, or speaking words of love and care. When you begin to pray, know that there aren't universal, special words for everyone, but if they're special to you, then use them. There aren't universal, special gestures, but if they have meaning for you, then use them. I've said this before, but a smile can be a prayer. You know the difference, right? In the smile that's a prayer and the smile that is a mask. You can feel it in your body and in the body of the person smiling with you. Now, Reverend Brian McLaren identifies 3 types of what he calls spiritual practice that bring communities together and create spiritual growth: contemplative activities, communal activities, and something he calls missional activities. Now, contemplative practices are those things that we might do on our own or supported in community, but they're more private and more quiet. They might look like writing, sitting outdoors, meditation in a sangha or by yourself. Communal practices are those practices that we engage together in. Like right now, we're in a communal practice. We're in a Sunday service gathered together. Might look like your meditation group or our candles of community. It might be us out on a hike together. It could be deep listening in a small group. But it could even be washing the dishes and caring for our shared space. Now, missional practices might be those things we do in solidarity, like what we'll do after service with VUU the Vote, or Side with Love, when we look out into the community around us and decide to do something together that shares our values and changes the world around us. We might be raising money together or just finding other work that allows us to be together and support something together. Now, UU Minister Eric Walker Rickstrom identifies 8 kinds of spiritual practice or prayer. He says there's personal, spiritual, communal, justice practices, life practices, soul practices, body and mind practices. And while these seem to be more discrete definitions, they're echoes of those other categories of communal and missional and contemplative. Wickstrom also says that in artistic endeavors, ideas that deepen our understanding of ourselves and our world, and activism, those can also be spiritual practices. So is prayer a form of spiritual practice, or are all spiritual practices a form of prayer? Now, I feel like spiritual practices are various forms of prayer, because the important element for anything to be a prayer is the kind of presence and intention that we bring to it. When we come together as a spiritually engaged community, we become a community that is more than a Rotary Club, right? More than a nonprofit organization. There's something deeper going on between us and the world around us. I like to say we are weaving presence. If you're unsure about what you're praying for, or whether you should even pray for something, remember that there's a difference between experiencing healing and experiencing a cure. Prayer creates an opening for transcendent experiences that allows healing and transformation, even when the basic details stay the same. In her story, Mary Kate knew that praying wouldn't change whether her dad had cancer or not, but it changed how her family and her dad have faced his cancer. Prayer doesn't prevent death, but it transforms living. It can be a salve, a flame, a cleansing, a restoration, an inspiration, a remedy, a reminder. So won't you join me in a moment of prayer? You don't have to close your eyes for this one, but you can. You can let them be open and see the beauty and love around you and notice the people here and the beauty of this day. When we pray, we're engaging something that is both personal and communal, and our prayers are as diverse as each of us. Prayer is a moment of looking inward and a moment of reaching for the holy. Prayer can be urgent, born of our pain and grief or suffering, and prayer can be urgent, born of our pain and grief or suffering. Prayer can be full of gratitude and acceptance, born of our sense of blessing and connection to the holy. Prayer can be a ritual that we carry with us like a tool that we will use in the garden, necessary and concrete. And prayer can be a song, a smile, a hand offered. When we pray together, it is all of these and more. It's an opportunity to honor the holy that we carry, that we share, and create by loving one another and seeking what is beyond measure and beyond words. So each of you, in your own way, you are the prayer. So today, as we gather in community, may our prayers be woven together as a soft cloth that brings comfort and warmth and peace. And may the colors of these prayers be vibrant and full of life, imbued with the spirits of all of us who are gathered. And so we might ask of you, loving presence, God of many names and no name at all, love that abides and place of refuge, walk with us as we experience life in all its complexity. Listen to our stories, connect us in love and complexity, love and community. Remind us of the beauty of creation and the precious gift of life that you have bestowed on us and all living things. May we find that we grieve or feel loss. It is because your gifts are the marrow of life. And when we celebrate and feel joy, it is because these are ever available to us and the beating of our own hearts. May we rediscover these gifts over and over in one another and in places like this one that hold us and keep us. May it ever be so. Amen, and blessed be. And may each of you find the prayer that is already inside of you, waiting for you to express gratitude and awe, to let yourself be changed. May all of our prayers be woven in ways that bring new possibilities for the world we share, holding our love and our doubts, our grief and our joy, all of our capacities as human beings. May the web of our prayers hold the infinite, because which we may choose to name or leave yet unnamed, wholly because we have imbued it with life itself. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There's a river flowing in my soul.
One of the ways that we express our generosity, which is also a spiritual practice, is through the passing of the plate. Today, I invite you to do that however works for you. If you're new and this is your first time with us, or you're a sometime guest, your presence is gift enough. But if you're able to put something in the plate today, or if you regularly send your pledge check, you can mail things, you can text things, you can go on our website, whatever works for you. We are grateful for all the ways in which our prayers and our other resources of spirit and body come together to make this community thrive and to bring the blessings of this community into the wider world. So if the ushers will pass the plate, we will also be listening to another song during this time from the choir, and they've asked me to share the words to that with you again. So this song that is a prayer is called Magic Prayer, and these are the words. I arise from rest with movements swift as the beat of a raven's wings. I arise to meet the day. My face is turned from the dark of night to gaze at the dawn of the day, now whitening in the sky. think my slide failed to mention Hannah Rea on flute. Thank you, Hannah. Mary Kate and I are going to close with this reading.
And then all that has divided us will merge.
And then compassion will be wedded to power.
And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind.
And then both men and women will be gentle.
And both men and women will be strong.
And then no person will be subject to another's will.
And all will be rich and free and varied.
And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many.
And all will share equally in the earth's abundance.
And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old.
And all will nourish the young.
And then all will cherish life's creatures.
And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth.
And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
And if you are able, I wanted to acknowledge our pianists today. We've got Linda Horton on the piano. And thank you very much for Beth and Lynn helping me. My name's Noelle as we lead the music today.
Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. Search my heart while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain.
As we're preparing to leave this space this morning, I remind you that we have a VUU the Vote conversation following coffee hour, that if you're new or you just want to check in over here at the Welcome Circle, we'd love to be in conversation and stay and meet somebody new. I hope you have a great week. Next week, we'll be doing the blessing of the bottles, saying goodbye to Kelsey, and learning more about our faith formation program for the upcoming year. So join me in extinguishing the chalice. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Thanks, folks. See you soon.